Today's story comes from a book called Full Steam Ahead, part of the Angels Said Australia series. Frank Botrill was a blacksmith and an engineer. He moved to Broken Hill at the end of the 1800s to drive and care for the big steam engines they used in the mines. At that time, they used camel trains to carry large wool bales from outback sheep stations to markets, since there were no roads for wagons. Frank watched the camels straining under the heavy loads and decided he needed to get a traction engine to Broken Hill to transport the wool instead. Frank was able to gather enough money together to buy a traction engine by fundraising and using his own savings. He began the long drive from his hometown, Morgan, in South Australia to Broken Hill. But on this trip, he spent many lonely hours digging the engine's big wheels from the sand when it became bogged. Finally, when his water had almost run out, he was forced to give up and leave it where it was stuck in the sand and walk to the nearest town. But he didn't give up. He kept on trying to think of ways to help the camels. As Frank watched tractors skidding in the sandy soil, he came up with the idea for dreadnought. A dreadnought is a line of flat metal boards attached to the wheels of the tractor, so it could sit on the sand without sinking. By 1908, Frank moved to Victoria, where he attended some lectures run by Pastor Robert Heer from New Zealand. Frank learned lots about Jesus and was baptized. At those meetings, Frank met Margaret Young, a Bible worker and writer who was helping Pastor Heer. They soon fell in love and they were married about a year later. In 1915, Frank began building Big Lizzie. Big Lizzie was a huge tractor fitted with his special dreadnought wheels. Big Lizzie pulled two massive trailers, each one over 9 meters long. When it was finished, it was the biggest and most powerful engine ever built in Australia. Frank and Margaret planned to drive Big Lizzie to Broken Hill to rescue the camels. We will find out what happens to Big Lizzie next time.
Now that's a very large traction engine that Frank built. Big Lizzie. And it sounds like Frank had to keep on persisting even when things didn't work at first. He saw a problem that they needed a better way to transport the wool from the outback stations than using camels. And then he tried to find a solution. His first traction engine kept getting bogged in the sand. He didn't give up. He invented the dreadnought so that the wheels of the tractor would not sink into the sand. Now he is all set with the big engine, 2 massive 9-metre trailers behind, and he is ready to head out to Broken Hill to help move the wool from the outback stations and help those poor camels. Frank is sure showing great persistence and problem solving. So kids, next time you see a problem, think about what you can do to help solve it. And if things don't work out straight away, don't give up. Keep persisting. As it says in Colossians 3, 23 to 24, work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ. Well, I'm really looking forward to what happens next in the Frank and Margaret Botrill story. I'm Arnie from Arnie's Shack, and you have been listening to Bible Buddies. Our time is up for today, but I will look forward to catching up with all of you again next time. So take care, stay safe, and God bless.
Learn about our wonderful God each day.
Stop and learn. Hey, stop.